Welcome to Preneurship Diaries. Today we have with us Zitin Munshi. Zitin is the founder of Next Mile Co., a startup that focuses on helping businesses grow sustainably. She has over 8 years of work experience gained across various subsectors, organizations, and geographies as unique as Botswana. She's a passionate advocate of sustainable development and holds a master's degree in development economics from the University of London. I am in awe of Zitin on the amazing work that she is doing. There are businesses offering products or services, but NextMile helps other businesses function in a sustainable way for a better world and future. Zitin, I'm so honored to talk to you today and share the brilliant work that you are doing that is much needed for a better world. Welcome to my show, and I'm so happy to get started with our conversation.
Absolutely. Hi, Shweta. It's a pleasure to be here. Heard lots of great things about also the work that you're doing. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that very flattering introduction. And let's dive in. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So Zitin, let me just get back to to your past a bit. So I want to know what triggered your interest in sustainable development while being a student of economics. So could you tell us a bit more on that?
Sure, sure. So, the first encounter that I actually had with this whole concept of, doing something good for society, something good for humanity, came during my first year of pursuing my bachelor's degree in
Mm-hmm.
Mumbai
Mm-hmm.
while speaking to my professor. And it was only because of him that I actually pursued my master's also in development economics after that. So, after actually I came back from London,
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some research work in New Delhi with this, small think tank. It's called Association of Asia Scholars, and this was in 2013. So we used to do a lot of cross-country research on like international development and those areas. And while doing all that research work, I also learned about this whole new concept of corporate social responsibility, which is CSR, wherein basically the government of India at that time, which was 2013, had mandated 2% of the average net profit of certain companies beyond the threshold of their turnovers. Um, and that concept just struck a chord in a sense, and I was quite intrigued with that whole thing. And before I knew it, I was actually helping other multinationals to look at their CSR strategy and their implementation programs. When I moved into Samhita Social Ventures, which is a boutique consulting firm that looks specifically at this area. However, the concept of sustainability and sustainable businesses actually came to me in my following move, which was made to Hindustan Unilever, where I was basically looking at the concept of sustainable businesses and how brands can actually make a real difference on ground if they really want to. And that's where I realized that this whole concept of sustainability, the larger concept of sustainability, existed. And the fact that actually it was good for business, it was good for business performance. So this whole concept of sustainability includes basically three pillars largely.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
Right.
there's the three P's. So there's people, planet, and there's performance. And it was a new thing that I came across at that point in time, and I realized quickly that the narrative has to change, and there has to be a greater awareness about this whole concept of sustainability. So that's when I really came across this whole thing, and that's the very long answer to your very short question.
No, but I mean, that's so amazing because that's quite some amazing work that you have done before, starting off Next Mile Co, which is, which we'll be talking about in a few
Sure,
minutes.
sure.
But so glad, I mean, from where you started, with your professor saying so, and then you pursued it, and
Yeah,
you also brought about or explored the aspects and the avenues where businesses can make a difference, of course, which it's you through CSR, and of course, when you're talking about sustainable businesses and how can they make a difference.
yeah.
So that's just wonderful. So Zitin, I want to know. I'm very intrigued to know about your experience and in Botswana. Could you tell us how you ended up there and what
Sure.
all did you do?
Sure, sure, sure. So shortly after, I finished my stint at Hindustan Unilever, where I worked for nearly about 4 years.
Wow.
Um,
All right.
After that, I kind of went to Botswana on a volunteer consulting project. So Botswana holds a very special place in my heart, and um, that's primarily because it was the first time that I actually realized that small businesses have the capacity to, and in fact must, embed sustainability within their business model right from the inception phase.
Right.
And before I proceed any further to talk about the work I did there,
Mhm.
a lot of people tend to ask me, where is Botswana? They've not heard of, the name of this country before.
Yeah.
So let me take a minute to explain that to your listeners, just for the interest of your listeners.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Please.
Sure. So it's highly likely that your listeners would have heard of the country South Africa. So Botswana basically is South Africa's neighbor, and
Mhm.
majority of this country is covered, with the Kalahari Desert, and therefore, because it is landlocked, it also experiences harsh temperatures. So winters can be chilly up to 1 to 2 degrees Celsius, and summers can go up to 40 to 42 degrees.
Mm.
I spent about half a year, and I saw both the extremes in that
That's
half a year.
right.
Um, I went there as a fellow under the TechnoServe Fellows program.
Hmm.
TechnoServe is an international nonprofit, and they look at a host of projects, but
Right.
this project specifically was basically for looking at the local community and the youth out there. So I was actually placed in a very small town in central Botswana, which was about 650 kilometers from the country capital. And
Right.
I was working, I was working there to basically make the youth economically active. What they meant by economically active was defined as, the participants of this program should either have an internship, they should either find a job, they should start or grow their, individual or group business that could be existing, or it could be a new idea altogether. That was a very special experience, because in my previous stint I had picked up how large, multinationals or large companies can actually look at sustainability in a more holistic manner.
Right.
But here I was looking at, trying to understand and also put into practice what small businesses can do. Are they motivated? Do they really want to
Right.
do this? And if they do it, does it work? So let me throw in an example here just to put things into context.
Yes.
I remember a group of five enterprising youth who had come with a ready business plan to me, and the whole program is much larger. I went only for the implementation part of making them economically active, but before I came, there was a 3 month intensive training that all the youth selected for this program had undergone
Okay.
to how to make a business plan, what are the challenges that you face, what are those stressful aspects, what are the life learnings that you need to be aware of, before
Mm-hmm.
you embark on this entrepreneurial journey or a journey to basically become economically active in some way. And so these guys came to me and they're like, they were like, we have a business plan to basically make furnitures out of used tires. So just to give you some local context, most travel in Botswana is done by road. And very often, I myself saw this, in my road journeys. You will see piles and piles of, used tires just lying unattended
Oh,
across, the highways, right?
right. Mm-hmm.
And while making, furniture from used tires is not a novel idea, in this town, they were the first ones to actually think about it and, embark on this journey.
Yeah.
Um, Plus, they had already the good part was that they had already identified, local guest houses and motels who might require such furniture. There were already
Wow.
individuals talking to them, that we
Wow.
want this kind of a furniture piece for our house.
Yeah.
Can you make it? So now, we worked together to understand what could be those modern designs that they could look at, what
Mm-hmm.
could be the utility based materials, and also the aspect of cost cutting, because they wanted to give the best price, to the customers.
Right.
So that made me reflect upon how opportunities can be created in a manner that they really provide value to the eventual, target audience that you want to look at. So that was basically an example that I thought I'll just throw in to explain how it was applied. So
Yes.
those kind of experiences were quite special because they gave me an opportunity to get my hands dirty on the ground. So that's
Right.
why I think going to Botswana was one of the best decisions of my life. Yeah,
Wonderful. I mean, so innovative, and of course, with
indeed.
your volunteering opportunity and you going and exploring, and also, as you
Yeah,
mentioned, getting your hands dirty and getting to know as to how it's going to happen and work. That's just brilliant.
yeah,
Um, so I want to know, when did this thought trigger? I know you were volunteering in Botswana, and
yeah.
you had sustainable development, which was your foray and your forte as well. So, how did Next Smile Co. come into being? Was it something on your mind that you wanted to put in as a venture? And could you tell us more about what it offers, and if you could also talk about a couple of projects that Next Smile Co. has worked on with various other companies? So that'd be great. So I want the entire story.
Sure, sure, sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's like an essay. In so I've done my I've done my
Yes.
bachelor in arts. So in most of the arts paper,
Wow.
humanities papers, you have to just keep writing usually. And
Right.
economics is slightly lighter because at least you have some scope to like fit in
Numbers.
diagrams. But the questions that you've asked, this one's going to be a long one. So yeah.
We're all ready for it.
um, awesome. So the thought of the fact that business leaders are actually looking for sustainable practices,
Hmm.
came to me when I was in Botswana. Of course, the understanding of the context, as I mentioned earlier, of large businesses came to me during my nearly 4 year stint at Hindustan Unilever.
Hmm.
But never had I thought that I will actually start an enterprise of my own
Yeah.
in this entire domain until a very casual conversation that I had last year with my
Hmm.
friend's husband, who I had called him to actually ask him if I can, take his help to build a website for myself as a freelancer, like a freelance
Right.
consultant, and in
Right.
he's also a freelancer in the web development space.
Right.
And he heard me out, and I told him that okay, I want this is data on my website, and these are the projects that I've done in the past because I'd done a few freelancing projects also earlier. And he's
Right.
like, Zitan, how about looking at actually making this an entity, like an enterprise of your own? I'm just asking, and that just asking, became like a nagging question and eating my head for the next few days. And I actually started to seriously think about it, and I discussed it with my family, and like in most other cases, my family was extremely supportive of, this decision. And they were
Right.
like, okay, at least experiment, at least start, see where it goes. Does it have a demand? Are people willing to do this? Are they interested? Are you making something out of it? And also, are you providing value to the people you want to, and so
Absolutely.
therefore this the whole entity of Next Mile Co actually was born. It's a pandemic baby. We started in August
Wow.
2020 last year.
Wow. Oh, wonderful.
We're a very small lean team, but basically we're a consulting firm that, as you already said before in my introduction, we're a consulting firm that empowers businesses to grow sustainably. So what does this rather complicated sounding line really mean? um, let's say you are the owner of a corporate gifting company based in India, and you're looking to do something out of the box, something different, with your product line. We can help you innovate, we can help you launch, your very own product line that's probably sustainable, that is planet friendly, that is that's soft on the planet, that's socially friendly as well. Maybe it is manufactured or created by, let's say, artisans, or right from the materials right up to the packaging as well. How
Yes.
is it that your company can look at conscious gifting, for instance?
Hmm.
Now, that's an example of a live project that we are doing at the moment. So that's the
Wow.
kind of work that we do, right?
Right.
Um, that's like an example of a regular business that we would support to embed the concept of sustainability within, their business model or their product or service line. Let me
Right.
share another example of a social enterprise.
Yes.
A social enterprise is basically an enterprise that is doing something good for the planet and its people. So inherently, through its product or service line, it is doing something that's positively impacting the planet or society. Let's say you're a firm that specializes in strategizing and implementing projects to do with, let's say, solid waste management or green cover management, which is afforestation and
Right.
growing a lot of greenery, etc., and or wastewater management in that sense. And let's say you're facing a problem of communicating your on ground work, right? You
Right.
want to scale up your operations, but you're not able to communicate the work that you do on ground to newer stakeholders. You're getting repeat clients, but you want new
Yes.
clients, you want new stakeholders in this whole thing. We could guide you on the right tools to actually amplify your marketing and communication strategy, right? That is most
Right.
authentic to your values, to your purpose, to the target audience that you're looking at, to the overall work that the organization does. And that's again another example of a project that we're about to finish with one of our clients.
Okay.
So essentially, it depends a lot on what's the challenge or what's that question that's nagging you, as a business leader that you present to us, and then we try and untangle that whole concept for you, but in the most planet friendly and socially friendly way. So those were just two examples, but for ease of understanding of the larger audience, we've kind of divided our work kind of into four buckets or four key areas. One is driving operational efficiency. So the question here is, how does your business embed sustainable practices across its value chain? You know, right from manufacturing to the doorstep of the
End
consumer
users.
who's consumed, and then let's say it goes into either your dustbin or your compost or your that's for a product line. Of course, for the service line, similarly, right? But basically, value
Right.
chain. Second
Yes.
is amplifying marketing and communications, the example that I just mentioned to you. How does your
Mhm.
enterprise most authentically, communicate and make a meaningful difference, let's say, through their marketing strategy? Third thing is sparking collaboration. So, which partners should your enterprise be collaborating with to serve the purpose of the partnership? So, every partnership would have a different purpose. It could be to drive scale, it could be to create a greater impact, and so on and so forth. And the last bucket is on spearheading innovation. So, how does your company think differently? The first example on the corporate gifting side. How does your company think differently, about its product or service line, right? And then, of course, make it a reality as well. So that was in a nutshell about Next Mile Go, the services that we offer, and like a few examples of projects that we are doing.
Yes, that's wonderful. I think you nailed the essay. Yes, I mean, wonderful. I mean, for the work that you're doing, as I mentioned earlier as well, we do have companies like who are selling products, or it could be services that they're offering.
Yeah.
But I mean, where I must say that Next Mile Co. and what you're currently doing, it's so brilliant because I mean, one thing is, of course, you are enhancing the business in every aspect, which you mentioned before. The perspectives which you mentioned that you help
Yeah.
out in.
Yeah.
I think apart from that, I think the main thing and the crux of Nextmarco is the sustainability aspect, right? I think that's
Yeah.
so beautiful, because companies, of course, run and it's all about the profit at the end of the day, or probably giving something of value to the customer, of course. But
Yes.
then there's also this value that you have to bring to the world as such. I
Yeah.
think to perform better, as you mentioned, it's about people, performance, and
Planet.
planet, of course. Yes, so that's beautifully laid out, and so happy and glad that you have a team working on this wonderful aspect. So
Thank you so much.
all right. Yes, a pleasure. And I want to know. I mean, you did mention about Next Malco and
Yeah.
what it offers,
Yeah.
but I want to know, as an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
what were the challenges, or are there any challenges at the moment that
Yeah.
that you faced while setting it up, or while running the business at the moment. So could you share some with us listeners?
Sure, sure, sure. I think just that, you know, everything was so new to me. This whole thing about setting up a business, trademarking the name. What is the difference between legal terms like LLP, sole proprietorship, and all that stuff? Also, right? Um, you
Yes.
know, um, but most of all, it was more like, will I be able to do this or not? How will I do it? Most of the challenges and thoughts were those. Most of the challenges came in because of the thoughts that I had created in my own mind.
True.
And somewhere I forgot that when you decide to actually start a journey, the universe keeps sending you positive signals and gets you in touch with people who will help you in that journey, who will grow together with you.
Yes.
And soon enough, Next Medico started getting projects. We slowly built a team. I was contacted by many people. So I think in the last 6 7 months, this must be my 14th interaction publicly. um,
Wow.
and a lot of people like you have reached out to me saying that we want you to talk to students who could be potential entrepreneurs or inspire other current entrepreneurs, mompreneurs, solopreneurs, and so on, like your podcast here.
Yes.
So while the challenges kind of remain and those thoughts keep pushing oneself further, and of course the whole thing was this whole pandemic thing was and still is, of course, right now it's quite intense. I tried to look at these whole setup challenges and these thoughts in my mind as very very minor things in the larger scheme of global challenges that all of us are really experiencing since the time that Nexmalco has started. It has been in the pandemic period. So yeah,
Right.
that way it's just been very lucky, touch wood.
All right. I mean, that's brilliant. We'll get into more about business running in the pandemic. More on that later. But I'm just curious to know what is the business model that you have adopted. Um, I mean, when you say you have clients coming over to you and wanting help with their business
Yeah,
in whatever aspect.
yeah.
So I just want to know, is it how do you go about it? Is it on a project basis that you do, or
Mm,
is it a
mm,
particular say marketing? I mean, or the
mm,
communication channels that you mentioned.
mm.
So is it
Yeah,
just that, or do
yeah,
you look into the overall aspect because you want the
yeah,
business to perform better sustainably?
yeah, yeah.
So how does it all work? Just so curious to know about it.
Sure, sure, sure. So I did touch upon this slightly earlier, and
Hmm.
so basically, it all depends on the difficulties that the business wants solutions for. Sometimes what happens is the approaching enterprise leader may not even be fully aware about the root cause of a problem or even the problem itself. So we also help them think through. We have multiple conversations before we even come up with, this is the problem and this could be the potential solution. And each engagement is very unique because even the solutions that are suggested are crafted uniquely to address the specific challenges that that business and their stakeholders would be facing,
Right.
such that of course the solutions are planet friendly and society friendly. So yes, the process, the solutions recommended, the scope of work, the timeline, the financials, everything differs from project to project, from client to client. It's extremely customized. So
Right.
that's a business model, if you want to call it a business model, but that's how we operate.
Yes,
That's how we
yes.
operate.
So it could be the overall aspect, or is it just to
Mm.
the point, whatever the problem
Yeah,
is? So you come in and you pitch in there and you give them various options and suggestions,
correct.
and then you go about it.
Usually it's
Okay.
like that, and it could run across any of those four
Right.
areas that I mentioned earlier. It could be
Right.
even out of those, but usually it spans between two
Okay.
or more of those areas. So I can't say that one particular project will be
Yes.
only on, let's say, looking at innovations. It all depends on what the challenge is. It could be across two or more of those areas as well. So,
Right. I mean that's very intriguing. I mean because the fact that I mean of course you have your own venture and you know what to do with it, but then you're involved with various other businesses out there which are I think various organizations, right? Because you work with nonprofit, then
Yes.
MNCs, then
Yes.
multilateral organizations,
Yes.
and that's quite some amazing knowledge that I think your team should carry because a whole lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, running a business for yourself is one thing, but getting in, I mean, getting into the business of others and figuring
Yeah.
out what works best for them. Oh my God, that's quite something out there.
Yeah, yeah, it is quite interesting. And sometimes, it's a lot, it's also a whole lot of, there's a wave of emotions also that you go through, because you're living it with the, we usually work with the leadership team of any of our clients, because
Right.
obviously it's mostly sustainability is a top down thing when it starts from a strategy level. So usually
Right.
when the leadership is like keen on looking at sustainability in a larger way. Therefore, obviously, it makes sense to look at, interacting with the CXO level
Yes.
in that domain. And also, this is one thing that consulting firms are usually, um, infamously famous for. Like, making very very fancy formats which are like one size fits all kind of thing, or like
Oh
minorly
yeah.
tweaking something, and then, but that's not how we operate. We try and customize every little thing, like I mentioned earlier, right from the
Right.
scope, right from the process to the solutions and even the timeline. For one client, it might take 2 months to do something. That then for another client, it might take 4 months to do the same thing, because the number of stakeholders will be different, type of stakeholders will be different, and
Right.
even the number of gatekeepers internally might be different, which might also change the timeline a bit. So all those aspects, looking at a very customized, approach, I think is very, so
Yes.
that's really the
Yes.
foundation. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, kudos to you and your team for,
Thank you so
going
much.
about it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. So I have a very general question. Just want your perspective on this. So
Yeah.
do you think businesses in India have a long way to go in terms of awareness and implementation regarding sustainability? So how do you see businesses out here in India? Are they good, or are we still? Do we need to start on the awareness aspect?
Sure. So I think the terms long way to go or are they good are very subjective. What I feel might be a very long way to go, for instance, may not be
Right.
for you. Or what you feel that, oh, this business is good, may not, be so for me.
Correct. Correct.
And I also believe that it's not suitable to compare the levels of awareness among businesses, and particularly MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, who we primarily work with in India, vis a vis, let's say, to the West, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do, however, believe that there is huge potential for the private sector to actually take an active role in making a meaningful difference. And there always is, like, I mean, for everything in life as well, there's always something, there's always potential, there's always greater room for improvement, there's always some
True.
way to go, and I also believe that we're all work in progress versions of ourselves. As long as we, I think, as long as we look out for opportunities and capitalize on them smartly.
Right.
um, when we're looking at the context of, let's say, the business community in India, I think the
Mhm.
understanding of how sustainability is much larger than just corporate social responsibility, because it has a legal connotation in our country. If you also
Right.
notice, the three words corporate social responsibility are slightly heavy, you know.
Ah.
They're kind of borderline burdensome if you read them
Yes.
separately. And
Right.
just the understanding of the fact that there is something like sustainability which is kind of more holistic, it's broader,
Hmm.
it's good for business performance, it's not something that you're doing for just social good and then that money is gone. um,
Right.
Sustainability is something that's larger. It's meant for growing your business and growing your stakeholders and growing the planet and its people together.
True.
um, and I did realize that while doing my groundwork for starting Next Mile Co,
Hmm.
a lot of entrepreneurs are somewhat aware of this kind of long and complicated term called sustainability, but
Okay.
then they may not have the right access, rather access to the right resources to understand more about it. They might be curious about it. Okay, there's something like this, but then how do I really
Yeah.
internalize it in my business?
Yes.
So after talking to a few entrepreneurs, I realized that maybe they need to hear from other entrepreneurs on how those guys have taken their journey forward.
Right.
So in November 2020, I actually started my own podcast, which is called as Sustainability Simplified.
Right.
And as the name suggests, it looks at simplifying the concept of sustainability, but particularly in the in the context of businesses,
Right.
primarily through conversations, with entrepreneurs who are turning this specific aspect into reality. So that's that's a kind of longish, convoluted answer to your question, but this is what I feel about it. Yeah.
All right, perfect. I think my next question was about your podcast,
Okay.
Sustainability Simplified. But
That
you
flows
did.
in very well then.
Yes. So could you
Yeah.
tell us about this journey?
I will. I will.
I
Yeah,
mean,
sure, sure.
of course, I know we're in the same boat with respect to the podcast aspect. But I want to know how has it been interacting with fellow entrepreneurs and talking about sustainability? And
Sure.
yeah, I mean, how has it been?
Sure, sure. So, the podcast, just a bit about the podcast, a little more in detail, is that it reaches out to prospective, entrepreneurs, current entrepreneurs of all types. Just to give them an understanding of how different businesses have embedded sustainability, let's say, into their operations, or looking at their partnerships, or through their product and service line innovations, or marketing communication strategies, whatever.
Right.
Often what happens is sustainability is thought of as some concept that's purely related to conserving the environment, but that's not true. Sustainability is,
Mm,
I explained the three P's earlier. So if you can make a mental image of a Venn diagram, in geometry we were taught in class 8 9, the Venn diagram with, let's say, three circles overlapping
right.
each other in a small central space.
Yes.
One circle is people, the other circle is planet, and the last circle is performance.
Performance.
And then there's that small area which is kind of overlapping.
Right.
That's sustainability, right? So
Mm,
it's a mix, and it's a pure balance of, so no circle is bigger than each other. All circles are actually equal, all the three circles.
right.
So planet, yes, conserving the environment, yes, it is one third of the entire concept, but there is two thirds which is on performance, whether it's performance of a business, performance of a nation, which is judged through, let's say, Human Development Index or the GDP, etc.
Correct.
Or it is, people, right?
Mm,
What about vulnerable groups or people, different types of people who can be empowered through this entire process. So I kind of try and touch upon all these aspects. And just as an example, I did a 3 episode series where of episode 3 episodes where I got an experts from the artisan, handicraft, and handloom space to make our listeners understand that there is this whole aspect of empowering people who are vulnerable or live in areas with low access to resources,
mm,
and providing the market linkages, which is also covered under sustainability, right? Because it's
right.
that second P of people, right?
People. Yeah.
So sustainability simplified, I think it's been a fantastic journey. I've completed 11 episodes, so that's been a great journey. It's it's been really good. Out of the 11, two have been solo, and the remaining have always been guest episodes. So
Right.
we've spoken about very interesting concepts like sustainability and music, this artisan handloom thing, lots of interesting stuff. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcast, Ghana, JioSaavn, Stitcher. You'll find it. And
Wow.
if you just type sustainability simplified, it'll be right there. So yeah.
Super. And I'm sure the listeners out here will obviously, tune into your podcast. And yes, if there are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs who want to get their businesses, and have the thought of sustainability, then yes, of course, I'm sure they would reach out to you.
Most welcome.
Yes, all right. So Zitin, can you tell us? Of course, we've spoken about businesses, and how they can implement sustainability. I want to know, I mean, could you tell how anyone can incorporate sustainability in their day-to-day lives, to make that small difference and bring about that change? I know we do a bit with respect to water, or the wastage and all of that, but if you could tell us how we could do it in our own simple ways. So yes.
Sure. I think before the how,
Mm-hmm.
I would like each listener to ask themselves why.
Mm-hmm.
Only once you kind of have a clear purpose on why you'd like to take actions towards sustainable living, the how will automatically flow. You will start getting ideas that I would not be able to probably answer right now, during this podcast. Often I say this, in a lot of my public engagements, and I'll repeat it here. We are the sum of our choices, as they say. And making a choice to living sustainably only and only depends on the intention and the purpose behind it.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are
Yes.
so many ways, right from choosing a bucket bath, over a shower or a tub bath, right? Doing a carpool or walking to work. I mean, of course, right now most of us are on work from home, but when life comes back on track,
Right.
or getting a few indoor plants, having your own kitchen garden if you have some space at home. When you're gifting somebody, think of a conscious gift which is utility based and maybe made out of sustainable materials and packaged sustainably. Or you can gift experiences to people. So how do you, do it is secondary, but I think why you should do it is more important. And if you're not convinced about you wanting to do or living a sustainable life, don't do it. Because if you're doing it out of force and you're like, oh, somebody said that I should do it like this, if you're doing it out of that, it's not going to work. It's not going to, you might get frustrated after a while. But if you're a business, close your eyes and think about your business 100 years down from today. You might be dead, but would you like your business to live on? Maybe yes. If yes, then of course, a sustainable business strategy, embedding sustainability in your business is very important. And similarly, with an individual, close your eyes and think about your grandchildren. You know, you might be gone,
Yeah.
70, 80 years from today, but your grandchildren, would you want them to live in a polluted environment? Would you want them all to kind of be coughing or having illnesses all the time? Basically, how would you want your future generations to be? So if that's going to help you change and think again about taking on a sustainable lifestyle, then do this small exercise. Yeah.
That's wonderful, beautifully put out there. So thank you,
Thank
Zitin.
you.
And it was very lovely, just start off with asking yourself why. I think, yeah.
Yes.
Right. So true. So true. All right. We did talk about Next Mile Co. being started during the pandemic. That's
Yes. Yes.
2020.
Yes.
So I want to know, how has it been? Has it affected your business in any way, both in a positive and a negative front? So how has it been?
Yeah, I think being a pandemic baby is in a way a blessing because we've been still able to manage well, built a team, got a few clients. We're also looking at expanding soon.
Right.
The fact that also the good thing about Next Mile Co is that the fact that it is strategy based at the moment, that allows also the team to be remote because
Yeah.
you can just work from the comfort of your own home, and that's in a way a great positive in these very challenging and trying times. So we're being able to kind of deliver to our clients as well. So yeah,
Ah,
it's
that's
mostly been
great. That's
positive.
great.
So yeah.
That's wonderful. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So we've spoken about the business and how we as individuals can make a difference. Thank you for all those pointers.
Welcome.
But I do know, I think in our previous conversations and interactions, you have mentioned that you are staying in Nagaland in the
Yeah, yeah.
mountains.
Yes, I am.
So my next question out here is, of course, I mean, considering the pandemic, we all know that
Yeah,
well-being is of utmost importance for all
absolutely.
of us. So I want to know what is your well-being or workout routine is like, and what do you indulge in apart from work? And I know it surely must be interesting because you're out at the mountains.
Sure, sure. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Well-being is actually a very important aspect, especially in these very, very trying times that, we all are going through. And
Yes.
even otherwise, even if
Yeah.
even if it's business as usual, I think many
Yes.
entrepreneurs and just people in general, they tend to neglect the idea of well-being.
True.
Um, I remember reading an article by Forbes somewhere early this year, I think in
Hmm.
February sometime.
Hmm.
And it stated how entrepreneurs are 50% more likely to be dealing with at least one mental health issue at a time.
Right.
Now that's quite a scary stat, but that also means that the awareness of the fact that this could happen should make entrepreneurs even more careful about this aspect, right? You can keep improving your skill set, but if you're eventually going to break down,
Yeah.
what's the point, right?
Yes.
To kind of keep myself sane in that sense, I do a few things every day.
Right.
So the wall that adjoins my bed
Mhm.
has a few, colorful papers cut in different shapes, which
Ah,
has, positive affirmation quotes that I've handwritten. And I
wow.
read those out every morning. So, just as an example, I choose kindness. I face life with courage. I cultivate the attitude of gratitude.
Right.
I dream, and the full form of dream is do, relevant, enjoy, aspire, meaning. That's
Wow.
DREAM. And
Wow.
and so on. There are a couple of more, and you can write what you feel like, but it should be positive, and it should be positive such that you feel like getting up and reading it every morning, even if it's the same thing. You could keep adding, you could
Yes.
customize it, you could keep changing, but ideally it should be positive.
Right.
So that's something I do when I wake up. Like literally, I get up from my bed and that's the first thing I see. I don't even get up to the go to the loo, brush, nothing. Before that, I read these things. Right. So that's
Wonderful.
one thing I do every day. Another thing that I do every day is I have a book where I write. It's
Mm,
called my universe book. So I believe in the concept of the universe,
right.
such that if you genuinely ask the universe something, it'll give you signs, it'll give you signals, as I mentioned
Yes.
earlier.
Right.
Who to interact with, what time, when, how. I write my asks to the universe. I want to
Right.
be this, I want to do this, I want to have this, in
Yes.
this format. And it's always, the sentence structure is always positive. Like, I want
Right.
to travel the world, I want to improve my mental well-being, for instance. Or
Yes.
it could this is personal, it could be professional. I want Next Mile Co to empower, let's say, 10,000 entrepreneurs, just
Yeah.
as an example. You may like to put a timeline or may not. It's up to
Yeah.
you. In my universe book, I don't put timelines because it is like my wish book. I don't want to put pressure when I'm writing every morning that,
Yeah.
oh, now there's one day less to for
Ah.
Next Mile Co to empower 10,000 entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So I think those two things are definitely a constant. I have a personal diary, so when I'm
Mhm.
feeling down or I'm feeling very happy about something, also I write mostly once in 2 days. I'd have liked to write every day, but then sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So
Right.
but I try to keep that as a constant as well.
Mhm.
Apart from that, I do a lot of things. So I have a couple of hobbies. I play the ukulele. My podcast, if any of your listeners or you have a chance to listen, my podcast tune has been created by me only on my ukulele. Um,
Oh. Wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, I have to go back and check it out.
Sure. So that's I play the ukulele occasionally. I run my podcast, of course, as all of you know. I occasionally color. I have a coloring book. I love to travel, so I have an active travel blog as well as
Yeah.
a public Instagram page where I, talk about my travels. I write poems and I also write literary pieces for voiceovers and videos. So those are some of the things that I do outside of work.
Wonderful. I mean, there's a whole list of things. It's not
Yes,
some.
yes, yes, yes. It is. I pick and choose whatever I feel like.
I know. I think that's the beauty of it. I think a whole lot of things, and I
Yes.
think it's really nice and beautiful that you're keeping yourself engaged in a whole lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So that's really beautiful.
Thank you so much. Kind of spoiled for
Oh,
choice.
yeah, I know. Right. So we come to the end of the last section, which I have is called as the Pruner Spotlight section. So I
Okay.
so I'm going to run you through a few questions, and you could answer to me in a word or two, or a
Sure.
sentence or two. I mean, I leave it totally up to you.
Sure.
So it can be on the professional front or the personal front. I mean, we'll just take
Sure.
it as it goes. All right. So let's do we get started?
Awesome. Let's do this.
All
Yes.
right. Okay, my first question is, what is your ikigai? So, ikigai is nothing but the reason for your being. So, what is that one thing that you would do on any given day, no matter what is happening around the world? So, what is that one thing?
Ask myself why for everything. Why? Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I would do every time, all the time. I do it all the time. why am
Oh,
I
wow.
why am I talking to you right now? Yeah. There's always a why. Why are people listening to me on this podcast? Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Why?
Okay, it's always the why. All right. Okay. So any person who has inspired you, or any book which has inspired you. So you can talk about any or both of them as well.
Sure, sure. So Simon Sinek is a great person who's inspired me. And also like most of his books are pretty good. So I love his books on leadership. I mean, all his books are great. Like, I've not read all of them, but I've read like 70 to 80% of his books. And like, those are really, really insightful,
Right.
extremely, I use, I use his golden circle theory very often, which has a why at the core. So
I know.
that's why the
I
answer to your previous question.
I know. I could just so resonate with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek. Yeah. So from the leadership point of view, yes, Simon Sinek. Another person who's extremely inspirational is Paul Polman. Paul
Mhm.
Polman is the ex, lead or CEO of Unilever.
Right.
Extremely well traveled, very empathetic as a leader, and also huge in the sustainability space. He's an inspiration to many, including me. So yeah, those two people for sure.
Wonderful. All right. Okay. My third question is, hypothetically, if you turn out to be the richest person in the world tomorrow,
Yeah,
what would you like to do? Or would you continue to do what you're already doing?
scale up next mile co immediately.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, absolutely. Brilliantly said. Okay. My next question, your choice, mountains or plain lands?
Mountains for sure. If you had asked beaches and mountains, then I would be
Oh!
slightly. But thank God you asked me like plainlands and mountains. Mountains, yes. Although I have road sickness, by the way, which is a very big no-no if you're living
I
in the mountains.
know.
But anyway, still mountains. They are more picturesque than the plains somehow. Or maybe
Well,
I've seen mountains which are more picturesque than plainlands in my life. So yeah.
yeah. No, no, no. I think I agree. It has to be the mountains.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Next question. What is your definition of success?
um, I think having a clear purpose, that's
Mm-hmm.
when you should, you should feel that you are successful. It's not a race with somebody else. It's a race with you yesterday, or you just 2 minutes ago, right? The clearer your purpose gets, the more successful you're getting, to understand yourself better and therefore serve the world better.
All right. Yeah, beautifully worded. And again, I think we have to go back to the first answer. Why? To
Why?
find out your clear purpose.
Why? Yes, yes, absolutely.
Lovely, lovely. Okay, my last question is what is that one key takeaway or any pointer which you would want to share with fellow entrepreneurs who are on this journey and who want to
Yeah.
scale, or for those who want to take on this entrepreneurial journey or is just waiting for that opportunity? So, what would you like to say to them?
What I would say is, this is, again, a little, maybe a little detailed, but this is something that I've
Please.
said earlier also publicly.
Yes.
And it's a personal, like, it's something that came to me personally. And, but I think there are three great words to live by, for
Hmm.
any person. Definitely, if you're an entrepreneur, definitely yes, but also for any other person. I was talking to my friend, and I noticed her. She's a very close college friend, and I noticed her WhatsApp status,
Right.
and it said, perseverance, patience, and purpose.
Mm.
And what I would like to say is that these three words are definitely great to live by. And for entrepreneurs specifically, I think it should go the reverse order. So you should start with purpose,
Peppers,
uh, you know,
patience,
patience, and then perseverance.
perseverance. Yeah.
Because obviously, with purpose, you learn a lot more and you try and understand yourself better, which is what I spoke about earlier. And then,
Right.
uh, you know, if if you are patient, only then will you persevere and then actually move to the next level, and get your dreams, to reality. And I think those are the three important words to live by. And another thing that's very important, I think, is take every opportunity and just grow from there. As long as it's backed with your purpose of
Yeah.
fulfilling what you want to fulfill, internally and otherwise, just take every opportunity and grow. Just take it. Just take it, because you don't know, from where what will arise and what will happen next. Especially in an entrepreneurial journey, you just never know, what comes from where, you know
Right.
and that's why I think it's very important to respect the fact that you're getting an opportunity, treat it as an opportunity, and just take it and grow from there. Yeah. So I think, that's very important, and that's why I always talk about four important words, which is keep an open mind. Of
Mm.
course, for that you need to keep
Right.
open eyes, ears, everything. But to begin with, keep an open mind, because
Right.
judging anybody or judging any opportunity, just to say that, okay, this is too small. Let's
Mm.
say this is too small, a publication, or let's say this is too small
Right.
a podcast. It doesn't have enough audience.
Right. Right.
You don't know what that article or that magazine
Yeah.
will be tomorrow. And at that point in time, it'll be a big thing for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, as long as you're being able to provide value even to a small set of people. So be it, you're
Yes.
providing value, so that's it. So
Yes.
yeah, that's a very kind of, you know uh, a lot of a lot of me talking personally out of my own experience. But I think, when entrepreneurs talk to entrepreneurs and they've gone through their journey as well, mine is just too short to say much. But just generally speaking, even, my work career of for 8.5 years now, that's that's kind of taught me a couple of those things which I feel I can practice in my entrepreneurial journey as well. So those were some of the things that, yeah, hope they find useful.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I really like the way you said it. Firstly, keep an open mind.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back to what you said earlier. I think it's the sum of the choices that you make.
Yes.
So yes, I mean, just reiterating what you just said is, I think it's not just about. I mean, it could be. I mean, we could be just. I mean, you just said that it's just been 8 months, or since you
Yeah.
started
Yeah.
Next Mile Co.
Yeah.
But then, of course, with respect to some of the choices that you've made so far earlier, the previous years, all of those years, I think that's where you're at today because of all of those choices that you made.
Absolutely.
And
Agree.
so beautiful. I mean, I'm just getting back to whatever that you said, and it's just so beautiful because always take on an opportunity, explore, just be at it. Yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
beautiful. Yeah. um
Absolutely.
all right, so lastly, how can one reach out to you, Zitin? for for
Sure. Sure.
for Next Mile Co, for the sustainability aspect, and for, of course, the travel part.
Okay. Great. So, I'm active on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as at Zitin Munshi. That's at the
Mhm.
rate ZITINMUNSHI. Or in case you prefer to write me an email, you can write to me on Zitin, which is ZITIN, at nextmileco. That's NEXTMILECO.com. If you'd like to reach out to us at Next Mile Co, we're active on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook as at the rate Next Mile Co. That's at the rate NEXTMILECO. My podcast is Sustainability Simplified. We're live on YouTube, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Ghana, GeoSavan, and so on.
Right.
In case you also are a travel buff like me, you can check out my public page on Instagram, which is at the rate trip to with Z. That's at the rate TRIPTOEWITHZII. And you will find the link of my blog in the Instagram bio itself. So, yep, that's where all you can reach me.
Super amazing, and thank you for that. I will surely leave
Thank you.
these links in the episode description.
Sure.
And Zitin, thank you for this. I mean, I had an amazing and very insightful conversation, not
Same here.
just about sustainability, but about everything else. And of course, getting on with the challenges, the perseverance of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I'm just so amazed with what you and your team are putting forth for all the
Thank you so much.
businesses out there, and of the amazing and the beautiful work that you're doing. So I'm so glad and honored to have you on my show, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shweta. It was an absolute, pleasure to be here and, share some of the gyan.
Yes.
But I think more to do. I mean, moreover, I think it was quite interesting to also relive some of those personal moments and also professional moments.
Yes.
Through the questions that you asked me throughout this episode. So thanks for that, and thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Really,
My pleasure, as always. Thank you so much.
thank you so much.